The ancient warnings, deep within the crystalline halls of the Kethmori archive. Elder Vashti moved with the careful deliberation of someone who had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. His elongated fingers, marked by centuries of age, traced the surface of a sealed data core that pulsed with ominous crimson light. The core was one of 48 in the restricted vault, each containing the final records of extinct species that had once dominated the galaxy. 47 cores glowed with the cold blue of completed histories. Only one burned red, indicating an active threat. The youngest member of the Hegemony Council, Commander Zolthek, stood behind the elder with barely concealed impatience. His scaled hide rippled with the aggressive patterns that marked his species' military caste. The Hegemony had expanded across 12 star systems in the past century, absorbing or eliminating lesser species with methodical efficiency. Now they stood poised to claim their greatest prize yet, the Sol system and its surprisingly resilient inhabitants. Elder Zolthek's voice carried the authority of youth, convinced of its own superiority. The Council grows weary of these delays. Our fleets await the order to advance. Surely you don't expect us to be deterred by the warnings concerning these ... humans. Vashti's ancient eyes, clouded by age but sharp with wisdom, fixed upon the young commander. 500 years I have tended these archives, young one. I have catalogued the death songs of civilizations that believed themselves invincible. The Zephroni, Dominion, masters of biological warfare, extinct. The Mechanosynthetic Collective, who merged flesh with machine, gone. The Stellar Devourers, who consumed entire star systems for fuel, nothing but cosmic dust. The Elder's voice carried the weight of centuries as he continued. Each believed they understood the galaxy's rules. Each ignored the warnings. Each paid the ultimate price. Zolthek's battle-scarred mandibles clicked in dismissal. Ancient history, Elder. The galaxy has evolved. Our weapons are more advanced, our tactics refined. We have studied these humans. For decades, they achieved interstellar travel only recently. Their technology is primitive compared to our own, primitive. Vashti's laugh was like the whisper of solar wind through dying systems. That is what the Titanus Empire thought when they first encountered humanity 3 centuries ago. The humans had just begun to terraform Mars, struggling with basic atmospheric processes. The Titanus, masters of planetary engineering for millennia, viewed them as children playing with forces beyond their comprehension. The Elder moved to a holographic display that materialized in the air between them. Images flickered to life, showing a barren red world slowly transforming. The Titanus offered to help, to show these newcomers the proper way to reshape worlds. They sent their finest terraforming specialists to Mars. Zolthek watched as the images shifted, showing gleaming Titanus installations rising from the Martian soil. What happened? The humans studied them, Vashti replied simply. Watched, learned, absorbed every technique the Titanus taught them. But they didn't simply copy the alien methods. They improved them, adapted them, made them uniquely human. Within 50 years, human terraforming technology surpassed that of their teachers. The Titanus found themselves obsolete in their own field of expertise. The commander's scales darkened with skepticism. Adaptation is not unique to humans, Elder. Many species learn from their betters. True, the Elder acknowledged, but none with humanity's particular approach to learning. Watch. The display shifted to show Venus, shrouded in its toxic atmosphere. The Titanus declared Venus impossible to terraform. The atmospheric pressure, the sulfuric acid clouds, the runaway greenhouse effect. No known technology could tame such a world. The images showed human ships arriving at Venus, not in the hundreds like typical colonization efforts, but in mere dozens. The humans didn't try to fight Venus's environment, Vashti explained. They embraced it. They built floating cities in the upper atmosphere, harvesting the very chemicals that made the planet uninhabitable. They turned Venus's hostility into their greatest asset. Zoltek's confidence wavered slightly. Resourcefulness, perhaps, but hardly threatening. The Titanus thought the same. The elder said grimly, until they realized what they had unleashed. The humans didn't just terraform worlds, they terraformed themselves. Generation by generation, they adapted to environments that would kill most species instantly. They colonized the moons of gas giants, built cities in asteroid fields, established thriving settlements in the void between stars. The display showed human colonies scattered across impossible locations, each one a testament to their species' refusal to accept limitations. But the truly frightening aspect wasn't their expansion, Commander. It was their memory. Memory, Vashti nodded slowly. Every setback, every failure, every death was catalogued, studied, learned from. When the Crystalline Confederation attacked a human mining station in the Kepler system, they expected easy victory. The humans had no military vessels, no defensive installations. The attack succeeded completely. The images showed the aftermath of the attack, debris floating in space, emergency pods scattered like seeds in the void. But every human who died in that attack transmitted their final moments back to Earth. Battle logs, weapon signatures, tactical analyses. The Confederation thought they had eliminated a threat. Instead, they had educated their enemy. Zoltek leaned forward, his military mind recognizing the implications. Intelligence gathering. More than that, the elder corrected. When the Confederation attacked the next human installation 6 months later, they found it abandoned. When they investigated, they discovered it was a trap. The humans had built the entire facility as a weapons testing ground, using the Confederation's own attack patterns against them. The alien fleet was destroyed to the last ship, the commanders. Scales rippled with unease. Clever, but hardly evidence of superiority. Any species can set traps. Vashti smiled sadly. You still don't see it, do you? The humans didn't just defeat the Confederation, they absorbed them, studied their technology, learned their tactics, incorporated their knowledge into human doctrine. Every enemy that struck at humanity made them stronger. The display shifted to show human ships that bore clear influences from dozens of different alien designs. This is what terrifies me about humanity, Commander. They don't just survive there. Encounters with other species, they evolve from them. Every contact, whether peaceful or hostile, becomes a learning experience. You speak as if there's some sort of galactic parasite, Zoltek said, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Not parasites, the elder replied. Survivors. Do you know what the oldest human saying is, according to their cultural exchanges? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Most species see this as metaphorical. For humans, it's literally true. The display showed ancient Earth, a world scarred by countless disasters. Their homeworld tried to kill them for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts, supervolcano explosions. Each catastrophe that should have driven them extinct instead forced them to adapt, to become more resilient. Zoltek watched images of human civilization rising from the ashes of repeated disasters. But there's still just one species on one world. We're Vashti corrected. That was before they reached the stars. Now there's something else entirely. Each human colony develops its own adaptations, its own specializations. The humans of Mars are different from those of Earth. The void dwellers of the asteroid belt have evolved capabilities that would amaze and terrify you. Humanity isn't one species anymore, Commander. It's dozens, all connected by shared knowledge and common purpose. The Elder moved to another display, this one showing recent intelligence reports. Our scouts have observed human behavior during their expansion. When they encounter hostile environments, they don't retreat, they adapt. When they face superior technology, they don't surrender, they learn. When they suffer defeats, they don't despair, they plan. What are you suggesting, Elder? Zoltek asked, though he already knew the answer. I'm suggesting that every species that has underestimated humanity is extinct, Vashti replied bluntly. The Titanus, who thought them primitive students, the Crystalline Confederation, who saw them as easy prey, the Vorthan Republic, who tried to use them as slave labor, the Stellar Nomads, who attempted to raid their shipping lanes. Gone, all. Of them, the commander's scales had shifted to the pale colors of fear. Surely you're not suggesting that humans actively hunted these species to extinction? No, the Elder said softly. That's what makes them truly terrifying. They didn't hunt anyone. They simply ... outlasted them, outadapted them, each species that challenged humanity eventually found themselves obsolete, unable to compete with human innovation and resilience. Vashti approached the sealed red core, his ancient hands hovering over its pulsing surface. This core contains the final records of the last species to seriously threaten humanity. The Void Hunters, masters of psychological warfare who could drive entire civilizations insane with their mental attacks. What happened to them? They tried to break human minds, the Elder replied. They discovered that humans had already been broken countless times throughout their history. War, genocide, plague, disaster, humans had endured psychological trauma that would shatter most species. The Void Hunters' weapons were useless against minds that had already learned to survive anything. The display showed the final battle between the Void Hunters and humanity, not a clash of fleets, but a contest of wills. The humans didn't just resist the psychological attacks, they studied them. Within a generation, they had developed their own version of the technology. The Void Hunters found themselves facing an enemy that could not only withstand their greatest weapons, but turn those weapons against them. Zoltek stared at the images in growing horror. Are you saying they're unstoppable? I'm saying they're survivors, Vashti replied. And survivors will do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything necessary to ensure their continued existence. The question you should be asking yourself, Commander, is this. Do you really want to teach humanity how to be better at war? The young commander looked at the sealed core, its red glow seeming to pulse with malevolent life. What do the records say about defeating them? Elder Vashti turned away from the displays, his ancient form seeming to carry the weight of the galaxies. History. They don't. Every species that fought humanity believed they could win. Every species that fought humanity learned too late that victory and survival are not the same thing. The records don't tell us how to defeat them, Commander. They tell us how to avoid joining the ranks of the extinct. The Council has already decided, Zoltek said quietly. The fleets move at dawn. The Elder nodded sadly. Then I fear we shall soon discover whether the hegemony is wise enough to learn from history or proud enough to repeat it. As the commander left the archive, Vashti remained alone with the 48 cores. Soon, he knew there might be 49. The only question was whether the new core would glow blue with the cold light of completed history, or burn red with the warning of an active threat in the depths of space. Human vessels continued their quiet expansion, each one a testament to their species' inexorable spread across the galaxy. They came not as conquerors, but as survivors, carrying with them the hard-won wisdom of a species that had learned to thrive in a universe determined to destroy them. The hegemony's fleets gathered at the edge of human space, confident in their superior numbers and technology. They did not know that their every movement was being watched, catalogued, and studied by minds that had learned to turn every attack into education, every defeat into evolution. The final lesson was about to begin. The reckoning. The hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metallic locusts. Their ships stretched across the void in perfect military formation, 5,000 vessels strong, representing the combined might of 12 conquered star systems. They came with absolute confidence in their superiority. Commander Zelthek stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion's edge, watching as tactical displays showed the primitive human defenses. A handful of orbital platforms around Earth, a few patrol ships scattered throughout the system, space stations that appeared to be nothing more than glorified research facilities. It was exactly what the hegemony intelligence had predicted. The defensive capabilities of a species that had achieved interstellar travel less than a century ago, sir, reported the communications officer. Her scales rippling with excitement, were receiving a transmission from the third planet. Audio only. Put it through, Zelthek commanded, expecting the usual surrender offer or desperate plea for mercy that marked the final moments of lesser civilizations. Instead, a calm female voice filled the bridge. Hegemony Fleet, this is Dr. Sarah Chen, speaking on behalf of the Human Council for Interstellar Relations. We've been expecting you. The casual tone sent an unexpected chill through the commander's body. Species facing extinction didn't sound so ... composed. Human, you will surrender unconditionally or face annihilation. You are outgunned, outnumbered, and outmatched. Oh, we're well aware of the odds, Dr. Chen replied with what sounded almost like amusement. We've run the calculations ostensibly. Your fleet represents approximately 73.2% of the hegemony's total military capacity. Quite impressive, really. You must be very confident in your victory to commit so many resources to this single campaign. Zolthek's tactical officer looked up from his console with confusion. Sir, how could they know our fleet strength with such precision? That information is classified at the highest levels. Dr. Chen, the commander said slowly, how did you obtain classified hegemony intelligence? Classified? Her laugh was like the sound of wind through crystal formations. Commander, nothing about your species has been classified for quite some time. We've been studying the hegemony for 73 years, since your first expansion into the Rigel sector. We know your military doctrines, your technological capabilities, your logistical limitations, and your psychological profiles. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Zolthek felt his scales shifting to patterns of unease. Impossible. The hegemony maintains strict information security. Oh, you do indeed, Dr. Chen agreed. But you made one crucial error in your calculations. You assumed that the 17 species you've conquered in the past century were simply eliminated. They weren't. They were absorbed. On the main display, new contacts began appearing throughout the system. Not human ships, but vessels of distinctly alien design. Crystalline Confederation cruisers, Vorthan Republic destroyers, Titanis Empire, terraforming ships converted for combat, even the distinctive biomechanical hybrids of the stellar nomads. You see, Commander, Dr. Chen continued as more and more alien vessels materialized on sensors. Humans have a peculiar trait. We collect things, stamps, coins, art, music, and apparently extinct civilizations. Every species the hegemony thought it had eliminated found refuge among human colonies. Every technology you believed destroyed was preserved in human archives. Zolthek stared at the tactical display in growing horror. The handful of human defenders had become a fleet that rivaled his own in size, composed of ships from every species the hegemony had ever conquered. This is impossible. Those civilizations were wiped out completely, were they? Dr. Chen asked. Or did you simply destroy their worlds and scatter their survivors? Refugees have been fleeing hegemony expansion for decades, Commander. They've been telling their stories, sharing their knowledge, preparing for this moment. Did you really think you could eliminate that many species without someone taking note? The communication officer's hands trembled as she reported new data. Sir, we're detecting weapon signatures from 12 different extinct civilizations. They shouldn't exist anymore. But they do, Dr. Chen said, somehow hearing the report despite being on an unsecured channel. Because humans don't just preserve endangered species, we help them evolve. The Crystalline Confederation's mineral-based technology combined with Vorthan biotechnology has produced some remarkable innovations. The Titanis terraforming expertise merged with stellar nomad mobility concepts has created entirely new forms of warfare. As if to demonstrate her point, space around the hegemony fleet began to change. What had appeared to be empty void revealed itself to be filled with nearly invisible constructs. Crystalline Confederation stealth technology enhanced beyond its original specifications. Asteroids that had seemed natural suddenly sprouted weapon emplacements. Titanis engineering applied to military purposes. Commander, Dr. Chen's voice had lost its casual tone, becoming something far more serious. Let me tell you a story. 73 years ago, a hegemony survey ship encountered a human research vessel in the Proxima system. The human ship was studying stellar formation, completely unarmed and defenseless. Your predecessor decided to eliminate this potential threat. Zolthek remembered the incident from his military academy studies. It had been classified as a minor border cleanup, barely worth mentioning in official records. The research vessel was destroyed with all hands. Dr. Chen continued. 17 human scientists died that day. But before their ship was vaporized, they managed to transmit their sensor logs back to Earth. Complete scans of your vessel's weapons, shields, propulsion system, and tactical capabilities. The commander felt his blood cooling to dangerous levels. You've been preparing for this war for 73 years. War? Dr. Chen sounded genuinely surprised. Commander, this isn't war. War is what you've been conducting against defenseless civilizations for the past century. This is education. On the tactical display, the mixed fleet of human and alien vessels began moving with disturbing coordination. Not the rigid formations favored by military organizations, but something more organic, more adaptive. Ships flowed around each other, like schools of fish, each vessel covering the weaknesses of its neighbors while maximizing their combined strengths. You see, Dr. Chen explained as the alien formations advanced, humans have spent the last 73 years learning everything there is to know about the hegemony. We've interviewed your refugees, studied your tactics, analyzed your psychology. We know that your species values hierarchy and clear chains of command. We know that you prefer overwhelming force applied to single objectives. We know that when faced with unexpected resistance, your standard doctrine is to retreat and regroup. Zoltek's tactical officer looked up with desperate hope. Sir, she's right about our doctrine. If we withdraw now and call for reinforcements— Oh, I wouldn't recommend that, Dr. Chen interrupted, somehow monitoring their communications. You see, this fleet represents the bulk of your military capacity. As I mentioned earlier, if you lose it here, the hegemony will be defenseless for at least 5 years while you rebuild. And I'm afraid your subjugated populations have been in contact with human diplomatic teams for quite some time now. New alarms began sounding across the bridge as reports flooded in from throughout hegemony space. Rebellions on a dozen worlds, slave populations declaring independence, subject species revealing technologies they had hidden for generations, all supplied by human advisors who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Impossible, Zelthek whispered. We monitor all communications. We prevent contact between subjugated species. You monitor the communications you know about, Dr. Chen corrected. But humans have been using quantum entanglement communication systems for 40 years. Instantaneous, undetectable, impossible to intercept. Every refugee who reached human space established contact with resistance movements on their homeworlds. Every technique you used to suppress them was analyzed and countered. The commander stared at his tactical display as it showed the hegemony empire collapsing in real time. Centuries of conquest unraveling in a matter of hours, carefully orchestrated by a species he had dismissed as primitive. Dr. Chen, he said quietly, what do you want? Want? Her voice carried a note of confusion. Commander, we don't want anything from you. This isn't about conquest or revenge or territorial expansion. This is about survival. Survival. The galaxy is a dangerous place, she explained. Species rise and fall, civilizations come and go, but life finds a way to continue. Humans have learned that the key to survival isn't being the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. It's being the most adaptable. On the display, the approaching fleet had surrounded the hegemony forces without firing a shot. Ships from extinct civilizations hung in space like ghosts of the hegemonies. Victims, their weapons powered but not yet firing. You have a choice, Commander, Dr. Chen said. You can fight, and your fleet will be destroyed by technologies developed by every species you've ever conquered. You can retreat and return to find your empire in ruins. Or you can choose a third option, which is, you can learn, she said simply. Humans don't conquer, Commander. We absorb, we adapt, we preserve. Every species that has chosen to work with us has discovered that cooperation produces far better results than domination. Zelthek looked around his bridge at officers whose scales had shifted to the pale colors of defeat. They had come here expecting easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they had found themselves outmaneuvered by an enemy that had spent nearly a century preparing for this exact confrontation. If we surrender, he asked, what happens to the hegemony? It evolves, Dr. Chen replied. Your species has remarkable organizational abilities and impressive technological achievements. Combined with the knowledge and perspectives of the species you've conquered, you could become something far greater than you ever were as conquerors. The commander thought of Elder Vashtai's warnings, words that now seemed prophetic rather than paranoid. The humans didn't defeat their enemies through superior firepower or advanced technology. They survived them, outlasted them, and ultimately absorbed them into something larger and more complex than any single civilization could achieve alone. Dr. Chen, Zoltek said after a long moment of silence, I would like to formally request terms for the integration of the hegemony into the human cooperative. Integration, she sounded pleased. Commander, there is no human cooperative. There's just ... us. All of us. Every species that has chosen adaptation over domination, cooperation over conquest, survival over pride. You're welcome to join us, but you won't be joining something human. You'll be joining something that includes humans, along with crystalline. Confederation artists, Vorthan biotechnicians, Titanus engineers, and representatives from 47 other species that were supposed to be extinct. As the hegemony fleet powered down its weapons and prepared for the complex negotiations that would transform conquerors into partners, Commander Zoltek thought about the archive core that had glowed red with warning. Soon, he realized, it would change color, not to the blue of completed history, but to something entirely new. The galaxy was changing, species by species, world by world, into something unprecedented in galactic history. Not an empire built on conquest, but a cooperative, built on the simple human principle that diversity and adaptation were the keys to long-term survival. In the depths of the Kethmori archive, Elder Vashtai smiled as he watched the red core's light shift to gold, the color reserved for active alliances. Humanity had done it again, turned a potential disaster into an opportunity for growth. The species that had learned to survive ice ages and asteroid impacts had now learned to survive galactic politics. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun, and at its heart were the stubborn, adaptable, infinitely resourceful survivors from a small blue world that had spent millions of years learning that what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger